Welcome to the EBFC show, the easier, better for construction podcast. I'm your host, Felipe Engineer Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction. Today's episode is sponsored by the Lean Construction Institute. LCI is working to lead the building industry in transforming its practices and culture. Its vision is to create a healthy and thriving industry that delivers outstanding project outcomes every time for everyone. Join me and many others from the Lean Design and Construction community at their 22nd Annual Congress. It is being held virtually this year, the week of October 19th. Our theme is the ABCs of Lean: transformation through actions, best practices, and coaching. Register at www.lcicongress.org/2020. Check the show notes for more information. Thank you, LCI. Now, to the show.
And here's the thing, too, is I think these tools were meant for us to be collaborative. And the unfortunate thing is when it does not have a contractual component, right, that says that we're all in the box together, I think that's when we fall in that trap, Felipe, right, which is you're still managing to an old contract style that says you're in control, you have all the risk.
Right. As soon as you miss a date, I'm sending you a letter putting you on notice.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, then I can't use the rest of my contract to motivate you to finish.
Yes, right. And in the same token, you're probably not likely to accept our help because if it doesn't go well, once again, you can't hold us accountable. And on the same token, you're not incentivized to necessarily clear that roadblock because you can just hold up the schedule and say, here's the schedule, you signed the line, hope you can make it. No, I didn't impact you any. Hope you can prove if we did impact you that we impacted you, and off the merry way we go, right?
And the funny thing about all that is that I've actually said this out loud to folks, and you might have never ever heard it. And I said, trade partners don't make more money by taking longer to finish the contract scope.
That's right.
But I've seen people have fights about, I need 2 weeks to get this done. No, you only get 1 week. It's like, you don't get paid more to take longer.
Yeah, you get paid for the unit that you sold, right? That's
exactly
included in your estimate. And I mean, it's an interesting thing too. Like even when we talk about productivity, right, Felipe? I tell people all the time, I am not trying to hold field people accountable to productivity because I want to measure you in any way. The reason why we have to have accountability is because we only sold something for so much, right? So
that's right.
You know, we're not getting paid to infinity. And so if you're struggling right now, you probably really need to say something because we can't fix it if you don't say anything. And I really believe that when we get to, and I say this all the time to people when I'm talking about productivity, I say, I know for a fact you did not drive here today to get to the gate, to walk in the gate, and for me to put every obstacle in your way to having a productive 8 hours in this environment. I know that you didn't. You didn't do that, right?
No.
You did not do that.
I've never met a craftsperson that has had that attitude.
That's right.
Not once. Not once.
Not once. Me
either.
Not
any trade. So happy to have my very special guest today is Steph Roldan. Steph, you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yep. So my name's Stephanie Roldan. I've been in the industry probably 21 years. Started as an apprentice in the field, electrician by trade, and then worked my way up through my organization. So, all right, that's good. This is about you and me, right?
This
is, you know, togetherness, Care Bear share.
That's right.
That's right.
Wonder Twin powers activate. My sister from another mother.
That's right. You know, I was just thinking about that, Felipe, when I think about like what really brings me joy in the work that I do and how it's really about whether or not the relationships we build feel like that, right? Like we can look outwardly different, right?
Oh yeah.
But inside, did we make a heart connection that ties us together and feels like there's something there that is just, I mean, it's probably the human connection, right? But just something there that makes you feel like he could be a brother from another mother, right? And I even said that thinking about like people that I work with on a regular everyday basis and our shared experiences and the stories that we've told and, you know, the hangouts and the barbecues and all these things that we've done, right? I just think,
And that's just
you
while
know,
COVID.
yeah, right. I mean, you just think about that, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I don't even know how we came to be, right?
Yeah.
In like the grand scheme of how would, of all the millions and millions of people in this world, how would we bump into each other, have something in common, similarities, some background, and then be able to develop a relationship that lasts? How do we meet somewhere in Phoenix
Yeah.
and then develop a relationship and then have roles within our companies that are so similar, right?
Almost
And
identical.
almost identical, right?
Yeah.
And you have a passion towards that research end of it, right? Like you bring me a lot of great knowledge from there.
Yeah.
But what really fuels me is that people part, right? And then I bring that aspect of, well, are we doing this? Are we talking about, you know, core values? Are we talking about principles? Are we aligning people towards their mission and their purpose and all of
Yeah.
that? And then it's like, okay, once we do that, then you're like, hey, Steph, it's time to bring this next part and help fuel them to be even greater, right? So I find that incredibly interesting how it's just, that chance meeting, right, at a table where we sit down for breakfast and it's like complete strangers. But now you'd
Random.
think random, right? Now you'd think, man, they were always destined to be together, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It was inevitable that we were gonna work together.
that's right. And that we would complement each other, right? Different
Exactly.
passions for the work that we do, just creating this whole like sort of worldly view of what we're trying to do when it comes to lean.
And I even look at the LCI Scrum deck, and you're on the front cover of it. I don't think you even know that.
No, I don't know
I'll
that.
show a picture of it like right
Okay,
here so that people can see like you're on the cover
that's
of that
awesome.
deck because you helped to make it happen.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I just it's really incredible when you think about that, right? And the work that we do.
Yeah,
So,
it is. No, so I want to definitely say thank you for coming on to the show, Stephanie. You like Stephanie. No one ever that I've ever heard calls you Steph, right?
everyone, why don't you call me Steph?
I'm
Everyone
wondering.
who's in like my homie circle
Yeah.
calls me Steph.
Well, then you got to pull me into the circle because
Come on,
apparently I'm outside of the circle.
no, I think you think you're on the outside of the circle, but you're in the circle, buddy.
Okay,
If
Steph.
you can go with Steph. Yeah,
All
no,
right.
that's how generally speaking I know if if one, I've made the attempt to make you feel welcome,
Yeah.
I'll know that you use Steph. And if I haven't, and you're still on Stephanie, you know,
I've been on Stephanie.
that was not intentional. That was
I've
not
been on
intentional
Stephanie
by
the
any
whole
means.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've just graduated to Steph like today.
that's
Yeah.
right. It took COVID for you to get in the Steph circle.
It took all that time. Yeah.
And had the fortune to meet Felipe in an industry event, and we've been developing a relationship ever since.
Yeah.
I really focus my intention, my effort, my energy around how do we respect people and tradespeople, get the work that we need to get done, and then really start focusing on how does the trades become, that vocation that is, interesting and desirable and attractive to people. When you really think about the history of trades, this was once something that people were artisans about, right?
Oh yeah.
If you look at the monuments that stand today, the craftswork that went into it, probably the love, energy, joy that went into that. How do we get back to that? Obviously some were built in unfavorable conditions. And again, right, we are looking at 2020
Yeah.
where some of those unfavorable conditions are peaking back up, right? So how do we do that racial equality work? How do we bring back and bring forward the good parts, right? So when I look back at, or I look to Rosendin, right, we have a different origin story than a lot of construction companies. Felipe, were started by immigrants who found a space and a place where they could exist, right? Just starting with, hey, we want to service the motors and the irrigation fields. How can we turn that into a business? They even changed their name to assimilate, right? Get a more English sounding name to build their business. And so here we are with Rosendin, right? Trying to return back to our heritage with how do we create the inclusive, environment so that people feel like they belong and that they can join us on this journey. And, like most, construction companies, I would say along the way through growth, right? the resources sort of don't look the same way they did in 1918. And so,
No, they don't. They've
right?
changed.
They've changed. And so everyone needs to find a space, place, and a place to belong. And that's what we're about.
And I remember we were at LCI's conference last year in Texas, right? It was Texas last year.
Yep.
All the years are starting to blend together. So,
and
I was coming back from an event after dinner, and at one of the hotels, walking somebody to their hotel, and there were like 6 Rosenden foremen, like just bumped into me in the lobby, and they recognized me from something. I don't even remember what. And we started talking, and one of the guys, and I can't remember his name. It's just been too long, but I think he had come from Chicago, which is where I grew up. And right away we just started chatting, like instant connection, super easy to talk to, very professional. I mean, a lot of tattoos on some of them, but that's just to be expected, right?
Hey, that is the, if you don't have a tattoo, you're the weirdo now, Felipe.
Yes,
so I'm an outlier. I don't have any artwork or ink.
Me too. I'm just too picky. I just can't decide, what I'm going to live with because I changed my mind.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know. I don't know what my fear is, but I just feel like it's really not my thing. But my coworker Matt, man, he's got some great tattoos, and I know the people that have them, right? They all tell a story, and it's fantastic when you sit down with a person and they tell you, hey, I did this one in memory of my father, or I did this because what I mean. It tells their life story, and it's very interesting to sort of see that life roadmap. It's interesting that you bring up that we took foreman, right? And I think I think when we think about how we can influence, change in the way that we do work, it is largely with that group, right? The leaders who lead the rest. We're an ESOP organization, so our owners own, the people in that umbrella own the company, but I think it's that ability to sort of have a different way that we do business, where we genuinely care and love the people who work with us, right?
Yes.
Allows us to bring in foremen and journeymen and apprentices, right? And say, hey, listen, along the way, we're going to grow you. You're going to continue to, we're about building people here. And part of that is that experience at LCI, right? Them being able to see what are other companies doing really well? How are they transforming? How are they collaborating? And developing relationships that one day, I bet we will see someone that we met at LCI on a job site and we'll say, you remember when we saw each other there? Let's try some of that really great stuff on this job.
No, that's a great point. And the foremen that you brought were excited to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, really excited, really engaged. And I was lucky enough to bump into people at some of the different events during the day. Like I kind of float in and out of so many different things, and I'd see your crew out there at different learning events and very engaged with the instructors. So I was like, that's a testament to the type of learning culture that Rosenden has. So tip my hat to you guys for
Thank you.
for developing that and bringing that to that type of event.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about them being so engaged, Felipe, is that the way that we find the individuals who get to go to LCI, right? It's open to anyone within the company. And what we do is we run campaigns all year long. We say, if you have a continuous improvement idea, submit them. And whoever has submitted the most within a month is our winner, basically, for that month,
like
right?
It.
So
I like it.
So that's
they're
how we
in
end
the
up
game.
with it. So exactly. So they're already doing the improvements, so they're already passionate about it, right? And so that's how we get that momentum and that fuel. And then they go to classes and they're inspired by others, and we'll be out there like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, still talking about how are we going to make our company better? Like I saw this and I saw that. How do we actually bring this change to the company, right? And we close out the event by one of the lean trainers really saying, hey, thank you everybody for joining us. Remember, you owe us 3 key takeaways. What improvement project you're going to bring to the company, and what support do you need? And so we continue to fuel that so that ideas don't get lost after we attend this and sort of the conference high leaves, right? And we have that touch point that keeps bringing more and more things to the forefront, and it empowers them to go back to their teams and say, hey, I want to try this, but I'm going to need you and you probably to help me, right?
And that's one of the interesting things about this event over others. And this is by no way a shameless plugging for LCI, but I've been to many other types of conferences, and usually when the conference is over, people scatter. Yeah. And at these, like when this is over, we all stay talking to each other way past when we should, to the point where it becomes dangerous for us to wake up and attend the next day's events.
It's very true, Felipe.
Yeah, I've even seen some LCI board members, getting within 4 hours of the next morning's events starting off.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it is the 1 week where I feel the most tired after.
Yeah.
Like it's one being with our like-minded friends, right?
Yes.
So this change work is hard, right?
Yeah.
And depending on how the year's going, what the initiative is, what it is you're trying to do, you start to run out of steam, right?
Mm,
And then you get with other people and they just reignite you, right? It's like,
that's
oh,
right.
I could do it. They're doing this. Maybe I just make one small change and I'm back on the horse, right? And so you get fueled to do that. And then all of a sudden you've got sort of your group around you saying, hey, I saw Felipe do this and I've seen Rich do that and this and that. And so then they're like sort of getting you even more hyped up, right? Before the end of the week is like, I don't know if you've slept. I don't even know if you've ate, but all you know is you have more energy than you had when you came into the thing.
Fact.
Right?
That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what my biggest complaint all the time is that there isn't enough time for us to actually make those connections outside of the events.
Mm-hmm.
Because so much does happen in a year.
Yes.
But
Yep.
do you, just put you on the spot, what was a surprising takeaway that one of the foremen had after having that experience?
So one of the surprising takeaways is really around, we talk about 3-week planning, right? And we do it a lot. It's aligned with the last planner system. But what we don't do really well is, one, communicating with our own people what that plan actually looks like, right? So he's built this plan. He's not necessarily aligning his crew to the plan.
Yeah.
So when it doesn't go well, he hasn't communicated anything downstream, so they don't know that they're not achieving, right? So
Yeah.
when people are getting frustrated and there's no achievement, it's very hard to keep people motivated, right? And the other thing too is that because there is sort of, I would say, differing experience levels in both my company, your company as a whole, right?
Sure.
We're all trying to build the airplane while it's in the air.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
Right? We're all trying to build this while we're flying. We have taken and adapted the last planner system, which is why we call it pool planning in Rosendon, because sometimes we don't get the opportunity, I'm going to say, we don't get the opportunity to actually have the sum of all parts.
Yeah,
right?
You just get some of it.
And we just get some of it, and we have to a la carte it. And he said it's unfortunate because you can see the value that having that on your job site would do with opening the communication, the collaboration, the teamwork. But the lack of experience in implementing that across what we are probably thousands of construction projects that are happening annually.
Yes.
It doesn't allow us to get to all of them, right? You and I both know that.
The good little nerd that I am, I prepared today for you. And that's a good segue. Like, our industry in the United States alone is worth almost $3 trillion a year in projects. $3 trillion.
Yep.
And it is thousands of projects for sure.
It is. Yep. And, I focus far less, I'll be honest, I focus far less internally on teaching my teams the tools or the academic side of lean, because I know the general contractors, depending on where we are in the process, are going to either have something adapted or they're going to be purists, one of the two, right?
Yeah.
And so just letting my teams have the basic knowledge is usually the best. And instead focusing on preparing them as people to enter into that environment is probably where our better effort is spent within our organization, because it takes an entire mind shift. And the other thing too is that they need to be prepared that as we actually make the mind shift and we believe we're going to make the change, that there's still the human condition, and so some backsliding might happen. And so then rather than just letting up off the gas altogether, let's just slowly let up a little bit off, but let's keep trying to chug along, right? You and I both know that there's always those stories of, well, I thought this lean was supposed to be so much better than these other construction projects, and this one sucked as bad as all the others, right? And usually that is not the tool's fault. It's usually a people problem, right?
Yeah.
It's
The
usually
people
that we just it's always people, right? And how did we respect each other?
or
You know,
not.
how did yeah or not? How did we communicate? All those things, right?
I was talking to a good friend of mine. You'll appreciate this, and she told me, she said, you can almost see it in two different ways. You can see that some projects, 'cause I typically unload a lot of stories on my poor friend. And she said, your stories are either in two categories. One, respect for people existed as part of the team culture, or there was a clear disrespect for people as part of the team culture.
Yeah.
And I said,
And
yeah,
yeah, culture is the key, right, Felipe? Culture
yeah,
culture is frankly the key in everything, right?
yes, it is.
When I first started down this journey of really having the corporate role, right? So I started on a confidential client, a semiconductor client. Everyone can
Yeah,
figure
we
out
all
what
know
that
who it
is.
is.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
all know who it is, right? But I started
they're powering my computer right now.
yeah. So they went into IPD with an IFOA, right? We had our little
Mm-hmm.
experiments initially where we were just trying things out until the IFOA came into play. Behaviors didn't really change, and we
Yeah.
know through all the studies that that's true, right?
And,
We know
and
that,
for all the non-lean nerds, IFOA is integrated form of agreement.
right? Which means we're all parties to what is at risk and what is to be gained,
That's
right?
right. So if you and I are in a team and I'm the GC, my profit is tied to your profit and yours is tied to mine.
Yep. And my bad decisions are tied to you, and your
And my random good decisions are tied to you as
yeah,
well.
okay, exactly right. And yeah, and vice versa, right?
Yes.
So but it makes you play the game differently, right?
Oh, yes.
It's a different set of rules, a different ways that you might make decisions. And so out of that I thought, well, what can we do for all of our projects, all of our people, that would give them a sense of that better way to do construction, right?
And you
And
were
I really
there on that job, boots on the ground, turning tools in hand before you flipped over to your
yes.
new role.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So I was there and I was there even before we had uh, the integrated form of agreement in place. We were still doing old contracting strategy, and they wanted the last planner system and the whole believe and trust us. It's going to change way.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to believe and trust you. I'm going to believe and trust you, and it sort of created the seedlings, the
Yeah.
ability to learn all of that stuff. But it took, some contract and some other stuff to help. But their goal was that they needed to save 30% on their program, or they weren't going to be able to build it. And the truth is we need them to build it as much for themselves as we need them to build it for the people and the families that we take care of, right? So there has to be some
Absolutely.
trust there that if I can make the 30% happen for you, then I can keep the hundreds of families that work for us employed and working, right? So we went down that road with them. We learned a lot about the tools. We did in fact meet their requirements. Big fat, fancy check that they
Yeah.
gave us to celebrate
Was it an
the.
oversized check too?
Yes, it was. Yeah,
Nice.
it's in the office here in Tempe.
Oh, very cool.
Probably as tall as I am. But yeah, we we got the oversized check to celebrate the moment. And we're still working out there today, right? Developing that relationship. But then I thought, well, is there anything from that type of environment that we can really bring across the entire company, right? Bringing back, I one day want to be able to walk up to someone in the field, and you get glimpses occasionally, but truly see someone just like having that awesome day. Because I can think about the
Yeah.
one or two really awesome days in my career of like installing in the field, right? And I know exactly how much I did, how much above the standard that was, how I felt at the end, how I felt when the bet was if you can put 900 feet of conduit in. Mind you, we'd already cheated, so the racks were already up. So 900 feet of conduit in the day, I'll get you guys pizza for lunch, right?
Yeah.
And just knowing that somebody appreciated my effort, right? And so I thought, well, how do we do that on a grand scale? How do we start doing that as a way of our life here? And I started down that track, and then I realized, the core values here don't necessarily say that. And I sent just a, hey, what's with the deal with this? Got quiet, and I let it be, right?
Sure.
But behind the scenes, the executives took that pretty serious, Felipe, and probably 3 years ago, our core values, I want to say it was probably about 3 years ago, our core values actually were changed to align much more with, um, with our lean transformation and our journey that we're on. So we have three of them that are really around the respect for people, and then two of them that are really around continuous improvement. So we care, we share, we listen are our people
Oh,
ones.
nice.
Yeah, and then our two around continuous improvement are we innovate and we excel. And so when I
Mm.
really think about it, really did we excel is kind of a additive, right? You do those first four, you'll get that fifth one. So yeah, so they really dug into that. We've been rebranding, recalibrating, continuously talking about it. I think ultimately that changed 3 years ago from leadership
Yeah, it
is
was like
ultimately
just yesterday.
it does feel
Yeah.
like just yesterday, but that foresight to do that then, I think, is actually what's allowing us to strive right now, because we've heavily during this COVID-19 time really leaned into we care, and what does that mean to us, right? What are we
Hmm.
doing around that, right? And in that vein, right, we recently launched the Rosenden Foundation, right?
Congratulations.
Yeah,
It's a
thank
big
you.
deal.
It is
It's a
it is a
big
big
deal.
deal, and it's a labor of love from quite a few people. We have
Yeah.
a leadership academy here, and what the closeout project is, Felipe, is that you're asked to find a corporate problem or opportunity that you'd like to solve. Okay, and we ask them that they use A3 problem solving, that they really dig into what's the root cause, that they really give us a great implementation plan, and that they see it through, right? And the
Right.
one that came up was at the end of the last year was we don't have a foundation. We do a really lot of great work within our company, but we don't really have a way that shows how intentional we are about that.
Yeah.
And so this group got us all the way through. Here's what we think. Here's how we get it started. Here's all the paperwork you got to do to get it done. Some of those people are now on the board, appointed to our board,
Wow.
because it was their hard work, it was their dream, and they brought it to life.
Yeah, I saw the
So
first post on LinkedIn, and right away I wanted to call you, but our schedules didn't allow for it. I had to
yeah,
wait
I mean,
until now.
we're really
Yeah.
excited. And the sad thing about it is that a foundation like that has to exist, right? When you really think about it, the fact that we have to do that good work to help people right now, and probably we'll have to do it for all of time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
our thoughts are build it big, have an endowment, do good work for the same 100 years and beyond that we've existed as Rosenden Electric, right? So,
But I think the part of that is just the fact that, as far as I can tell, every human being is born with amnesia. Like everybody just comes in blank. So you need people that have some experiences to guide and learn and coach and be available and show people alternate ways.
yes.
So I applaud the foundation. That's a really good thing to do, and I'm excited that you're going to have a say in how grants are allocated as well.
Yep. So, and that was really important to me too, Felipe. How we support the communities, and we actually have we're going to have two grant cycles that are for sort of that everyday work, people putting in the hard energy. Our focus areas are around emotional health, nutritional health, and occupational health right now. Obviously that was determined because when you look at the high suicide rate within construction, that's largely people's emotional health,
Oh
right?
yes.
And we need whole people to be able to show up every day, and we need to get beyond this belief that if you say you need help or you're struggling, that it's a weakness, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I've had an email come in my inbox from somebody that I was supporting, and I was trying to help them just recalibrate and get back to it, right? Slowly, the usual construction story happens where it's like, oh, they're all of a sudden a crappy worker, or they're on booze, or they're on drugs, or any number of things, right? Well, people are balancing out their medications. Weird stuff happens, right? But to give someone the grace to say, listen, I'm gonna help you. You need time. Don't worry about when you're coming in, clocking in. Let's just be fair about the effort we're expending and that you're expending too. And to give them that time to heal, right? And it's not usual within construction for us to take that time, right?
Yeah.
Or to address it in that way. But I just think back even on my apprenticeship, where I knew that people were just struggling as human beings, and then you'd find out, they took their own life, or they were found, or it's not a good thing. And I think to ignore the fact that it's real is not helping anyone right now.
No, it does not help.
And so we're putting a lot of effort. We sent out a grant just recently in the amount of 2,500 towards an organization that helps with mental health awareness within construction. Then we had nutritional health very early on through COVID-19, when the food banks were just getting exhausted. And the next one that we're really going to be focused on is on domestic violence and child abuse, Felipe, because what we know is that with kids that have not been to school in a very long time, in some areas since March of last year, right? Teachers do some of that heavy lifting with recognition of conditions at home, malnutrition, physical and mental abuse. And so those organizations really need our support right now, because some kids still aren't coming back, right?
Sure.
And they don't all have, super supportive homes that they're sitting in trying to do their virtual school in, right? So
No, they don't.
They don't. And so we're gonna put some work. We're gonna put some support into that, probably in August. We're really focused on making sure we can get something out there into our communities soon.
No, it's really good. It makes a huge difference. I've got family members that taught kindergarten, and you're definitely right, nailing it. They see things that everyday people don't pick up on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the kids depend on that as part of their extended support system.
Yeah. They depend on it to build their village, right?
Sure.
Whether we know it or not, children are resilient, and they'll find people who can love and care for them, right? And usually it happens to be a teacher, right? Everybody has that teacher that saw something special in them and tell that story, right? So recognizing that and getting some support out to the organizations that can help those and provide resources is important.
No, that the foundation is very promising.
Yeah,
So,
and the great thing about the foundation, not only was it created by people who had a passion for it within our own organization, right? And we really showed that if you empower people and you respect their thoughts and what they can bring to the table, right? That discretionary effort, Felipe, they'll really bring it, right? But you got to be an organization that wants to engage your people, that wants to empower them, that wants to respect their thoughts, that wants, you know what I mean? It doesn't come by itself, right?
no, it doesn't. I was doing a talk with some folks on a large project team, and we were talking about challenges with trying to do these different ways of building. And I said, shockingly, the principle of that in Lean that I have the most trouble with is respect for people. Like, even me. And I was just telling everybody, it is very challenging. It's different. You can't ever come at people like as if they're broken and they need to be fixed. That's not respecting them.
Nope.
And it doesn't engage people to want to do more. And like you said, that discretionary effort, like you're going to get paid to do the job if you do, to the X degree. But when you engage people, they just go way beyond where the targets are put.
That's exactly right. I mean, when you think about it, in today's sort of new climate we're in, right? Negotiating both politics, racial equality, gender parity, all of those things, economic equality, right, Felipe? When you think about all of those things that are sort of bottling and coming up to the surface, they all stem from that one thing, respect for people. And so when you are intentional about what that looks like, right? And how you're going to tackle it within your company, it changes everything, right? I think I recently saw, you get the analogies, right? And it says, well, diversity is being invited to the dance, right? And inclusion is being asked to dance, and belonging is dancing like nobody's watching, right?
Wow.
And
that's a good analogy.
Yeah, and we need to get to that belonging space,
we do.
right? And accepting people for what they bring every single day, and finding the right fit for them, right, Felipe? I mean, because here's an interesting thing that's happened to both you and I, right? We have business units within our company, right? Usually the prestige is assigned to the people who run the biggest business units, right?
That's a fact. Check
That's a
that. That's
fact.
total truth.
That's right. But here's the thing is, even when I'm offered that opportunity, it's not the company not giving me the opportunity, because they have, right? So 100% they're supporting me getting to what is the normal bias, which is getting to the top, and this is the track that we know, right? But I am intentional about the opportunities that I take, because I know that in that I won't be the best Stephanie that they need me to be. I my talent profile in that, the behaviors that I once exhibited probably as a project manager, and I exhibited all the usuals. I'll be honest, until 6, 7, 8 years ago, Felipe, where I ended up on a job that was finally going to use some collaborative methods. I was the stereotypical project manager, just like everyone else, right? If
You
I
had a
had to dig
spreadsheet
in,
with a naughty list?
yeah, and if I had to send that missile of an email, I would send the missile and I would just worry about what happened later, right?
Yeah.
But it's not who I want to be,
Mm-mm.
Felipe, right? And so
Right.
when I think about what I need to do for this company, the seat I'm sitting in is where I need to lead from, right?
And you and I have talked about this many times. Span of
Yeah.
control. Stick your
Yes.
arms out. What can you get your arms around? And, in the position you're in, your arms go way further.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And they go way further. And the great thing is that recently, right, senior leadership has given me an opportunity to flourish, right, and get some really great projects started, get some momentum behind them, build the teams that needed to be built to make and for us to excel and innovate around them. So we're doing the right things here. But it also means we look a little bit weird probably to the outside world of construction. I've told people that. I said, one day we're going to be in the spot that we want to be. And when you look around, you better be prepared to look weird, because it's just inevitable. When I first took this role, I had a great mentor who said, he said, you can change one job, you can run one really great job, or you can change them all.
Mm.
And I'm after changing them all, Felipe.
You have a good mentor.
Yeah, I'm after changing them all. And then ultimately the decision was mine. He said, for once in your career, I don't want you to make a decision in the best interest of Rosendin. I want you to make a decision on what's best for Stephanie.
Yeah. Or Steph, as you're known by your real
Or
friends.
Steph, as I'm known. So they probably did say Steph.
Yeah.
Right.
I would hope your mentor is on
Yeah.
a Steph basis with you.
Yeah, they're on the Steph basis. But
That's
right,
great.
so and that's ultimately, Felipe, where I've been in the last 5 years, which is, the truth be known is a Hispanic girl from South Phoenix is making more money than she ever thought she would, right?
Right.
Kids are fine, husband's great, all of that stuff. So I don't need to make money decisions. I need to make passion and purpose decisions now,
Yeah.
right?
The money is
And
just going to show up as a side effect.
it is.
Yes.
And the truth is, Felipe, is if I don't finish my career, and I fully plan on it with Rosendin, but if I don't finish my career having made the change, I don't think I'll have won. And so making the change is far more important probably than being incentivized at this point.
Sure.
As a byproduct, I'll be incentivized, I'm sure, right? I'll earn what needs to be earned, but I'm on that Maslow hierarchy of needs at this point. I
You're
need
at self-actualization.
I'm headed towards self-actualization, baby. That's where I want to be, right? All the other stuff, this company is taking care of that, above and beyond what my expectations would have been, right?
That's right.
I came into an ESOP culture without even knowing I came into an ESOP culture, because I'll be honest, when I first came here, I just came here because the person who was leading the organization was somebody I had faith in and I believed in. That's why I came, right? And I didn't know that, there was an ownership part of it or whatever. I just knew that we were after treating people fairly. We believed in our IBEW culture, right, which is where I'm trained from. I'm a former IBEW member, right? So I knew that we believed in that model of respecting labor, allowing them to negotiate the deals that are fair to them and the communities that they serve and live in, right? So I knew that about the company. And I knew that I was following a good person, but I didn't know what the reward system was for the actual company, right? And Now having, I sit on the trustees, right? Now having spent some time looking at it, doing research about what it does for, um, fairness and equality, right? And frankly, truthfully, building wealth for people, right? So you can look at Black, people of color, um, and Indigenous, and they've got 30% more retirement built than non-ESOP companies, right? So when you're thinking about what benefits does this do to racial equality, well, we can get you 30% closer, right?
Yes.
When you look at, even single mothers, there's an improvement off of from, non-ESOP companies there. And the truth is just owning a stake in the work that you produce in and of itself, Felipe, is rewarding, right?
Skin in the game.
Skin in the game, right? And because we have skin in the game, we get to build a culture that is around our core values, and our beliefs then help another organization, the IBEW, our partners, also meet the intent of what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to build great families. They're trying to educate individuals. They're trying to attract people to the trades. And because we believe in what we believe in, we support that. We fund that. Um, we're fair at the negotiation table. All of those things, right,
Right.
manifest themselves out of the culture that we've built here.
No, it's perfect. That's
Yes.
alignment.
Yes. Yeah.
People first, which is what
People first.
we wanted to make sure we hit on in this episode. The people first part of lean. The often overlooked part because we get so hung up on the tools.
It's very true, Felipe. I mean, and here's the thing: we not only say we know, we have the research that says we need to spend more time with each other and learning about each other as people, and that of a project might be 3, 4, 5 days of the entire project we spend with each other, and then we say go to work and we spend months with each other and we never come back as people, and we think that barbecue lunches for safety and all of these visual things are going to do it, but that's not getting deep to who we are as people. Not to say that a recognition lunch isn't good every once in a while or that we shouldn't have it. I absolutely agree that, but it doesn't speak to the heart, Felipe.
Yeah, that intentional partnering in the beginning. I can't tell you how many jobs I've been a part of where people a year into it, 2 years into it, don't know what the person to their left does, outside of work, or what their main role on this project is. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we just default into someone's title and we think that that's what they do, but it's not. It's almost always not.
It's almost always not. And we don't ask, how do I help you? Or do you need help, right? And you and I've sat on jobs where this one poor person is like burning the night oil, right? And it's like, why is that one person feeling like they're shouldering all of this? Is there no part of it that we play in it that could assist them, help them? I'm sure they have other things they'd like to do with their time. If they haven't yet built a family, I'm sure they'd like to at least eat, drink, and use the restroom, right? And but this poor person is just, and then we wonder why it is they'll say later that they hate construction. It's like, because we didn't see you. We just left you there by yourself, right? And I don't think it's healthy. I mean, I was a perfect example of a person who thought that the more energy I put into a project, the better outcome I would get. And the truth is I would actually get a worse outcome, Felipe. I would be a crappy person. I would not be paying attention to my family at home. Everyone was getting the short end of the stick, including myself, right? I don't know if I shared the story with you, but I'm pretty sure I did. But even around the time when I first started taking this role on, I was sort of shouldering these two responsibilities, still wrapping up being a project manager on a large job, and then sort of making this transition. On top of that, I was 9 weeks pregnant at the time. I had my first mini stroke at 9 weeks pregnant, trying to wrap up two things and get something started. Scary.
That's a lot. You're burdening a lot.
Yeah. And, and it's just a sign to slow down, right? And the problem is none of us in construction will admit we need to slow down. In fact, we think the more I pour into it, the faster I go, the better I'm going to be. And it's like, No, when we get into a turbulent storm in an airplane, thank God the pilot doesn't accelerate more, okay? They slow down.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So,
Or if they see it coming, they at least try to fly around the storm. Whereas, so many of us on the ground just we run into burning buildings.
Jeez Louise, right? But you know what? It's driven out of some of our cultural beliefs of being Superman, the hero, the firefighter. How many people praise themselves on being like, oh man, they called me in because this was all messed up and I fixed it all. Oh man, you've made a career on being a firefighter in construction. Yeah. That's not actually the job. It's not actually the job.
It's not sustainable. Yeah, actually talking to somebody today, and she was saying that her dad is a senior superintendent, and his only job is to go in and rescue projects. Her words, exact quote, rescue projects.
People who rescue projects make a good living, Felipe.
They make great money. They get paid better than I do.
Money.
They do.
But it can't be the way moving forward, right? And here's the reason why I say it can't be the way moving forward, because I am the old millennial, right? Like I'm at the top bracket of this thing. And
luckily,
I'm
older than you, so I'm not a millennial. For the record.
See. Oh, okay. But I don't like working in that environment, right? And I think the more and more generations we get deep, they don't like working in that environment either, Felipe.
I just saw the stats because that's the nerd that I am. Millennials, Gen Y are now the majority.
Yes, we
in
are.
Construction.
We're coming for you. We're coming for collaboration, teamwork, and a better way to do this, right?
What a great time to be in.
Here's the crazy thing about it, Felipe, is that when you really get down to it, even the boomers and Gen X, you guys want to work that way too. But something in you will just not admit it. No, I don't know what it is, whether it's to sound weak like the snowflakes or whatever else, thing you're going to toss at us millennials. Yeah. But you want it too.
No, I don't speak for all of Gen X, but I'll speak for myself. I want the collaboration too.
Yeah, you do. I absolutely do. I tell people all the time, our core values are sort of meant to be love in action. And the truth is we were too afraid to probably say, we love.
Yeah.
Right. We went with we care. And it's true. We do care. But if you looked at what the actions really are for most people that say we care, it's really actually love, Felipe.
I believe you.
Yeah.
We spend more time at work than we do with our families, most of us.
Yes.
I mean, I'm guilty of that myself. And you have to really, to stay in it, you got to come at it from your heart, not from your mind.
Yeah, my daughter caught me the other day. I think I was in this room, which is half office, half workout room. So sometimes I look over there and feel guilty I haven't stepped on that treadmill in a while. But she came in the room. Obviously, I wasn't working out at the time. And she said, why are you still working? And I said, because work to me at this point in my career is like playing video games to you. I love it. I love it. It doesn't even, Felipe, it doesn't even feel like work anymore. The amount of discretionary effort I put in to the projects I have on my plate, most people would go, she works an 80-hour work week. I don't. I work the work week it's necessary to pour the love and passion that I have for my work into my work. That's it.
That's how it should be.
Yeah. And if my kids told me, hey, Mom, I'm finally going to be off Fortnite. Do you want to play? I would get up from my work and go and play. But, they're building worlds and destroying stuff and, I don't even know, running around and doing whatever they do, right? So
breakdancing too.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
all in there. That game has it all.
It has everything. It has concerts. It's got action. It's got teamwork. But here's the thing. I look at it and I go, well, that's where their friends exist, right? It's different.
Yeah.
The friends don't exist running outside down and up and down the block, riding a bicycle and doing all of that. All their friends exist virtually. And when they plug in and their headsets on and they're shouting all kinds of weird commands to each other, it's all their best friends and them.
All I hear from my son is, give me that med kit. I'm like, dude, you're dying every day, boy. Why you got to be the one you're always the one on the team dying every day? Every day I hear someone calling for a med kit in my house.
Oh shoot. Yeah. But right, it's different for how they develop their relationships, and they're developing relationships virtually. They're finding ways to do teamwork and collaboration. It's just the way it is now.
It's just like, well, it happened to us too as adults when COVID hit. Many companies in construction said it's impossible for people to work from home, even part-time, even sometimes. Not even like 2 hours. If you weren't in the trailer or in the field, you're not working. Obviously, if you're installing equipment,
Yeah.
right, you have to be there to put it in. That's just the nature of reality. But for a lot of the other things, the planning parts, some of the the management aspects of it can be done from virtually anywhere.
Yep. You know, it's interesting, Felipe, because I have a talent profile that doesn't mind change, generally speaking, as long as it aligns with where I want to go and the future that I see, right, which is people appreciated for the work that they do. So we made a pretty quick pivot, and I'm a member of the training department, to getting our training online and virtual. And we had just a serious spike, and we've had a spike ever since, right? People just retooling. How do I manage virtually? How do I have a presence when I'm on the camera? All of those things, right? Just through the roof for the training levels, right? I think that helped people sort of get into the way. The IT department quickly was like, WebEx training, right? To show you how the tools work. So we went right to training, right out of the gate. Like, how do you pivot and train, right? So we went straight to a solid base of training people. And then we started thinking, okay, so how do you effectively do your work? I hate to say, well, here's the thing, don't waste a great crisis, right?
No,
It's
don't
the
waste
burning,
it.
it's the burning platform, right? The need to improve had to really be internal, right? You really had to want to improve. Now you don't have a choice. You have to get better at how you plan your work because the whole team's not there. You have to be better at how you manage the release of materials, the communications, all of those things, right? You have to be much more intentional and better at how you're doing that stuff. So this is really just a culmination and the next, sort of start the commencement of the next part of it for us with regards to lean. So we built a nice little base about, this is coming. Hey, here's the signals. And now we're doing that deep work and people finding out that, yeah, it's real and we've got to do it. And, most of our office teams are not in the office. They're, remote from wherever they are. We're finding better ways to virtually walk the job using technology. And the truth
our
is,
companies are almost the same size too. And our CEO is doing a webinar just this week, and he still said about 1,000 of us are working remote still.
Yeah. We're not in any rush to come back to the office or come back to the trailers, and a lot of that is because, to be honest, some of the geographic areas in which we do business, we're not anywhere near like the downslope towards low numbers, right? We're in Texas, we're in Arizona, we got California climbing again, so it's not worth the risk, right? If you can find better ways, why risk it?
Yeah, if you can still be effective, and if you can meet the goal, just meet the goal.
Felipe, it's about now having to change the way that we measure things. We need to measure outcome and results and stop measuring butts in the seats.
Yeah. Time on tools doesn't work for leadership. It's not a good metric. It's not even a good metric for tools.
It's not. Now that you say that.
It's one of those things that people throw out all the time.
Yeah.
I know you got to hear it. Like, you've probably heard it your entire career.
I do, but I could be out of time on the tool screwing a whole bunch of stuff up, and it's not really adding value, right? So, but yeah, it now requires that we really look at what is value creation, right?
That's right.
So
it's asking those questions. I mean, just like when you looked at your values as an organization, and for being, a person on the front line installing work and saying these values seem to be silent on something.
Yes.
And people in your organization, that says a lot about your leadership, that said, hey, wait a minute, Steph is right, or Stephanie. Stephanie is right. This doesn't align with what our real values are, and they made the shift. Yeah. They pivoted.
You know how I really peaked up in this organization? We had this thing called Ask the CEO. Okay, and it was meant to be an inbox. You could ask a question, send it in. The CEO would answer it via a video blog, right?
Okay.
And the question I asked was, you wrote a blog. And this was like a written blog. You wrote a blog, 2 months ago, talked about the 20-mile march. Then this last month, you alluded to it again. I've been here for a long time. I don't know what the 20-mile march for this company is.
Wow.
And yeah, and that question triggered, well, how does anyone know?
Yeah, where is it?
Where is it? Right?
How
And
can we see
so,
it?
yep. And if you were to ask me today, Felipe, what were the old core values? What was the old mission? And what was the old purpose? I couldn't tell you but 3 words that I believe was part of the mission statement that said something like, we do something with the industry standards.
Wow.
Lead them, I don't know, something. Improve on them, excel, I don't know. Something around that, right? So I, who memorize a lot of things occasionally, right, so that I can recite them later.
Yeah, you
If
still call me a nerd.
Yeah.
How dare you?
If I can't do that, Felipe, how does everyone else do it? Right?
They can't.
They can't.
If you can't find it or see it, you have no chance of it being
That's right.
there.
That's right. That's right. There's no way that, if one, they can't quickly recall or see it,
Mm-hmm.
then there's no way for them to know. And more importantly than that is, we should really be looking for the behaviors that align with that. Right?
That's right.
So even if you don't have a great memory and you never remember all 5 of them, which they are relatively easy now to remember, I'm just interested in whether or not your behaviors align to them.
Well, I remember them because you gave me the trick, the pattern. The pattern is respect for people and continuous improvement.
Yes.
I don't need to remember the 3 and the 2. Right?
That's
I know
right.
they're 3 and 2, but it's really just those 2. And our values at our company is similar. We have 3, and I always tell people, like, I don't need the other 2. The first one is all I need. It covers it all.
Yes. And truthfully, we care covers all of them too, Felipe, for us. If you care, then you'll be willing to share something with someone else when they need it. You'll listen to them too. You'll help them innovate, and you'll help them excel. And you'll help the company innovate if you really care.
Absolutely. And
So,
I want to ask you a question that I get asked by superintendents all the time when they're going to try something collaborative with pool planning. And you've been there. You've had that experience with that that special client that took you on a journey and said, "Trust us, it's going to be better," and it was. And you got the big fat check to prove it.
yeah.
I've heard this, and I've got my answer, but I want to hear it straight from you.
Okay.
When you or your crews are asked by a general contractor to come to a pool planning meeting, what's your knee-jerk reaction? Don't think too hard. Just give me your knee-jerk.
Okay. So my knee-jerk reaction is I always ask which general contractor asked us. That's my first one.
Oh my God, I love that.
With all honesty, that's the first question I ask. Because here's the thing: is depending on who it is depending on the preparation I need to put into my team.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that too is because one bad experience will take me back on the progress that we're making here in the company. And so if I really believe that what I say, people know that I'm speaking the truth. And so when people borrow my relational capital, right, my truth,
yes,
I need to make sure that people are prepared for what really will occur. Okay. And so depending on who the general contractor is, the team that's named, if I know the people, if I know that they're sending in, they're professional, similar to me, right, like is going to be in the room, I might prep for, hey, Felipe's a great guy. He's doing the hard work like we are. His team's a little bit inexperienced. It's only their second time. It might fall apart because the superintendent's new and he's not going to know how to navigate every stage in there. So you guys are going to be learning together. By the way, you're really strong, so I depend on you to help him along the way. Or we're weak too, and so we're going to struggle along with it. But don't give up because you're going to get one bad taste in your mouth and say it never works. Okay?
Right.
Because there's cases of it works, but this time might be a little bit rough.
No, that was a beautiful answer.
Right.
Right.
And
well, we get pushback from superintendents saying that we don't think the trades are going to want to participate in this. And my answer to them is always, it's going to be the most money that they ever made with the least amount of effort and all of their experience ever.
Yes.
When you do it. I think when you do it. But if
Yes.
you don't do it, if you do it a la carte, like if I just go into a corner and put a bunch of sticky notes on the wall that exactly matches my critical path method schedule, and then I just tell you to hit the stuff that I put up there, I'm clearly not doing a collaborative type of anything. Right? And that's not going to work.
Yeah.
We already know that.
The a la carte really kills the momentum, Felipe, with the thousands of people who are really the people invested in construction, right? So here's what I sometimes think we forget. I think we forget when we're using and talking about these tools and doing all of this, that it's not us who are from the project management side or from the academic side or from any of these other people that say that this is theoretically going to work, that are going to work with this tool. Okay. And there are hundreds of foremen in our case, right? In my case
Sure.
in particular, right? Hundreds of foremen within Rosendin. And there are probably, hundreds of GFs. And when they get a bad taste in their mouth, guess who they're talking to this about? They're talking to this with the 4,000 people that we have in our organization that do the actual physical work. And so if I'm talking about whose minds do I need to change, who do I have to encourage to want to be collaborative and do team working and all of these things, it's 4,000 people, Felipe,
Right.
that I have to be aware of and that need to be educated and that have to have an interest in this and that have to be listened to and that need to be respected and that it be looked at as artisans and craftsmen and women, right? Like that's who we're really talking about here.
Right. I was on a little job in like Nowheresville in the middle of the country. And we're doing a session like this with a brand new team that never heard of it. And in the beginning I asked, by show of hands, this was all foremen, various trades. There were 12 trades. By show of hands, who's ever heard of this type of planning method, the last planner system? Nobody put their hand up. We went through the exercise with that team, and the demolition contractor brought his CEO to the trailer the next day to show him what we did, because he said he's never seen anything like this his entire career. And this guy was probably high 50s, if not 60 years old, the foreman. And he said it was the first time he's ever seen it. He was so blown away of how well it worked. And people were skeptical. They were,
I guarantee
they were so skeptical.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they did it, we did the calculation at the end and we said, you guys invested 3 hours. Thank you. You've talked to each other, right? We get out of the way real fast. I think your approach is the same as mine.
Yep.
And I think they took, at that time, they pulled 3 weeks off of the schedule. And by the time the job finished, fast forward, the job finished a month early. So the 3 weeks that they pulled off there stayed. They finished a month early. And everybody made money.
Yeah.
And it was, and they all would love to work with each other again. And I think that is like a massive testament to that. And that's what I always tell the superintendents, that story. Like, here's a job where nobody had heard of this ever, right? And they all said at the end of it that they'd love to work with each other again in a heartbeat. They would call each other and talk to each other. And our superintendent didn't lose any power or control. He still guided the whole thing. And there was an assistant superintendent, and she still guided the whole thing. Right? They worked together.
Yep. There
was no resistance. That's what I keep telling people. I don't see any resistance from the trades to collaborate. I've never seen it. Now I've gone to places, stuff to the other side of that coin. Let's flip that coin over.
Yep.
And now I'm asking a group. Here's a little bit bigger group. Has anyone ever heard of or used this method, last planner? And one drywall contractor put his hand up and said, yeah, and it was a bad experience. So then, because I heard that and knew that, I made sure to continuously ask them questions like, is this what you saw? Is this like what your experience was? And they ended up telling me that, out of the 5 major steps or conversations, they only did one.
Right.
But the one thing that they did put a real bad taste in everybody's mouth. And it could have been a poison pill situation where everyone's going to push away from the table and not eat with us.
Yep. Yeah, no, I also encourage our teams, for the superintendents and the GFs that are a little bit more advanced, Felipe, to even just offer it to their project team. And the reason why I say that is because, um, we'll meet owners who've never heard of it, right? We'll
Right.
meet general contractors in smaller parts of America, like you said, right? Not
Right.
exposed to it, haven't seen it. We don't mind leading that effort if you want to support it. And so we've done that in a couple different places where, it wasn't necessarily a very large project, but we needed to get to a place where we were collaborative, we were moving together, and that we intentionally met the schedule, right? And so
Right.
helping the teams along, I think, is important. I think that's the other key component to it is, um, you and I both talked about this, right? Is every company is sort of at this different level of understanding and learning, and
Right.
every business unit is at a different level of understanding and learning, right? And
Right.
so having a conversation very early on, like, hey, we're relatively skilled at pool planning as a subcontractor, and you're bringing a relatively green team. We don't mind helping and leading. So if there's some parts of this that you want us to help you with, do something, right? But that conversation has to happen, and there has to be some humility
Yes.
around skill set. And that is what I don't think happens, right? Where
That's the hard part. I'm in
that's the hard
control.
part.
I'm the GC. You do what I say. Right.
Yes. Yep.
That's what we got to overcome and people think, and not because they're egomaniacs, because the whole system that they're in promotes that you've got to be in control, the controlling contractor. And there's a lot of liability that we have as being the controlling contractor, that we have a lot of responsibility.
Yep.
So it's hard sometimes to offload some of that responsibility to somebody that, like yourself,
Yep.
an organization like yours, and that's offered help. I've heard from, not even just in your trade, other scopes of work have said, we offered your team to try this.
Yep.
And can you help bridge that conversation? Because we don't have that relationship. And that takes time. You have to be intentional, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we try to get people to say, let's go look at it. When I get onto a job and maybe do the same thing, I spend some time looking at the actual job and the conditions that people have to work in. And then
Yes.
with that in mind, the conversations in the trailer where we're planning are way different.
Yep.
And I don't take every job like they're all the same. I never come with like a checklist. You're never going to see me roll up in a checklist and be like, well, if we just do these 12 steps, then we're going to be there. Don't work that way.
I don't checklist it either, Felipe. Um, you're right on the money with that walking the job situation, right? We call it Gemba
Mm-hmm.
in lean, right? Some people just
Only
call
the
it,
nerds do.
yeah, only the nerds.
So you said it, not me.
Yeah. No, but you know what I mean. It has a term
Yeah.
for it, but generally speaking, we call it
Yes.
job walks. But here's the thing, is you have to be intentional about how you walk a job, because I'll be honest, we've been walking jobs forever in construction, right? Forever. But it's the questions that you're looking for. It's what are you hoping to do? Not the why are this or the why are you not, right? It's not about them.
Why aren't you done?
Why aren't you done? Why aren't you making your numbers? All of those normal questions we ask, right? Why questions are important. Don't get me wrong, right? 5 whys
Right.
is a legitimate tool. But we need to go out there really looking for how are we going to help them, right?
Right.
And, here's the thing. Most times it's not a people failure. It's a process failure, and it's somewhere else. And the truth is that some poor sucker who we sent out there to go install something is the one left holding the bag with every single defect that came down our value stream going, well, this is what I got. Plus I got to get 8 hours worth of work done. How's that ever going to work? It's impossible.
Impossible.
It's impossible.
No.
But hey, that's why you and I are here. We're
That's
going to
right.
change.
And I was going to tell you too, the first times that we met, and I'll probably get the year wrong, but I feel like it was 4.5 years ago,
Yeah,
maybe almost 5. And at the time we were both, you had more experience than I did. you were way ahead of me because
that's the power of books, Felipe.
That's right. You were absolutely ahead of me. And, I didn't know who you were at the time. We sat down by pure chance and we started talking, and I realized what your job was. I made a mental note. Get sponge out of her everything you can, because she's probably seen everything you're going to come across and face and more.
Yeah.
And even right now, listening to you talk, you've seen more than me. And I'm glad to count you as a friend to help guide me through what I'm trying to do.
Hey, I'm about sharing, Felipe, and listen, I am so incredibly happy that our chance meeting turned into this lasting relationship that we have. Um, one, because of what it's done for me personally, but what I know you and I can do for the industry as a whole,
Right.
for what we can bring out of, our hard work, out of our energy, out of our passion for transforming the way that we do work. And I really hope that in my lifetime I start seeing this being an attractive career choice. The pay is here, Felipe.
Yes.
The innovation is here. The opportunity, the growth, everything is here, right? When I just look at, um, we happen to be a union contractor, but when you talk about women and men being paid fairly, our pay scale is, here's your title, here's what you get paid. So if you want to make 100% of what the male workers are making, it's here for you, right?
Wow.
But we're just
Powerful.
not, it's powerful, but we're just not an attractive industry for anyone right now. I
Yeah.
mean, high suicide rates, who wants that, right?
Nobody.
Nobody. Confrontation, old school confrontational ways of solving problems, who wants that? Nobody, right? Um, it just got to get better. And I really think there's some other elements too, Felipe. Let's start looking at, why aren't we just getting the momentum towards prefabrication and modularization? The job sites are hard, right? But we don't ever think, how in the world do we get more people out of jobs and get them into fab shops, building the exact same things we're going to need on the thing, and reducing the amount of time they're either in winter conditions when we're up north, they're in
Yep.
summer conditions when we're down here in the south. Um, all of those different things where it's like, if we can get better at planning our work, if we can look at the technologies we have available, if we can get more towards manufacturing and move, the work towards the people instead of the people to the work, we can make some big strides in making this more attractive. But we have to put the
Absolutely.
work in. We've
We
got to
do.
do the work, and
There's
it's
no
not
escape.
easy. There's no escape. There's
Nope.
no escape. We have a workforce shortage, and we're competing with some of the best tech companies in the world for talent, right? I mean, I
Right.
even look at it with my young daughter, right? She's 12 years old now, right? She's my oldest. And when she tells me the premier employers that she'd like to work for, it's always Apple, Google, Facebook, TikTok, something in that world, right? And here's the truth.
Right.
I see her over there gaming. I see her over there doing 3D models of things that she's going to tinker around and have, spit out of the 3D printer. All things we do in construction, and we're not even a thought in her mind.
Not
And you know
even.
why we're not a thought in her mind? Because I'm not doing the work to educate her. And
Yeah.
I've been very intentional over the last 2 years, Felipe, saying, you want an engineering career? You want to be in mathematics? You're STEM driven? We have opportunities. We have
Right.
opportunities.
Or just even, I mean, how many parents do we have? I'm guilty of this too, stuff. When my son was born and people had asked me, like, oh, what would you like your son to grow up to be? My answer was anything but construction, because that's what I
Yes.
work in.
Oh, yeah.
And I said that for probably until he was like 5 years old. And then something started happening. I started thinking, no, it'd be good for him to work in this.
Yeah.
It'd be really good. And now he's very interested in what I do.
It's what I do too, Felipe. I mean, I've gotten her involved probably over the last, so probably it was the last 2 or 3 years. I can't remember when our ESOP hit 25 years, but around there we had like a contest about like making like a little sign with the 25 and the logo, and the kids could all
Mm-hmm.
get in that, right? And she wrote,
Right.
she made a really good one, and ultimately I saved it. It's in my closet, right?
Right.
And talking about the culture that we have here, right? And then we had Bring Your Kids to Work Day, and I worked here locally with the Arizona office to give them an exposure to, our corporate BIM is located here, right? So here's what we're using for 3D modeling, and here's some of the stuff that we print out, and here's our technology. And oh, by the way, then we have a trainer here who teaches the actual hand skills. And my daughter's in the back, right? And they do the whole presentation, and she goes, what's that? And she points over to a pipe bender, Felipe.
Yeah.
And I go, it's a pipe bender. She's like, how does it work? And I go, well, you take one of these sticks of pipe, and I pull a stick off the rack there. And I go, you put it here, and I go, and you have to have a distance from the front of the shoe, because you can't kick it right on the end, because you're not going to have enough oomph yet
Yeah.
to be able to pull that one off, right? So I
Not
put
a,
it back.
not a 12-year-old, yeah.
Yeah, not at 12 years old, right? And not only that, but it had been a very long time since I bent a piece of pipe, and so I was like, I don't want to embarrass myself in front of my child, so I better pull it back here, so I got something here for to be a handle and get some momentum. I'm talking real talk here, right, Felipe? It's
Sure.
been 18 or so years since I've had tools in my hands, right?
Man, that's a long time.
I know, right? Or something like that.
You
No,
should have
no,
wore a
it's
white
probably
collar
less.
shirt today. You should have had a white collar shirt on.
You're probably right. So no, it's probably. Well, I've been with 16 years at least, because I've been with Rosen so it's been 16 years since I had tools in my hand, right? And I put it on there, and I go, here's how you do it. Here's the foot pedal. You push down, get a little momentum. She couldn't get the first push, so I was like, hey, let me get the first push. Luckily, I was good enough to get the first push, and I said, okay, work it. And so she bent it, and I gave it to her, and everyone's joking around the office like she's actually probably better than you are, right? Which I'll take it, whatever.
Yeah.
Razz me when you can. But that exposure, right, Felipe, wouldn't have happened if we hadn't have been intentional about bring your kid to work day. If
Right.
we hadn't have got them in the shop seeing that we do labels in the back warehouse, that we run a large warehouse, that back here's we have a training center. Oh, by the way, we have 3D modeling, right? So now she's like, this company has a lot of things happening, right?
Right.
And she's right. And when you start looking at diversity and inclusion, right? I wasn't doing my job to say, hey, you could probably be here. In fact, I had just summarily excluded her. Nope, you're my child, rightfully, but you're my child. You don't come here, right? And it's
Right.
like, why? We do
Yeah.
have a lot of great things to offer here.
We forget how much influence we really have to make it an outstanding industry.
Yes, Felipe. And it's interesting you say that, right? So we just recently started our diversity and inclusion advisory council, right? A council that's advising our executive team on sort of the different perspectives that diversity brings to an organization, to make sure that we're moving towards belonging, right?
Right.
And so I mentioned this to my daughter, because she's like, hey, what have you been working on? And I mentioned, hey, I got a couple things on this, and this is what's new, because she knows I'm drawn to those new things. So she's like, what's new?
Yeah.
And I tell her, I'm working on this. I'm getting, some advisory counsel from some really great other people in the our organization and outside of our organization.
Right.
And so she says to me, I go, do you know what diversity and inclusion is? And she said, yeah, it's where everyone feels like they belong, but more important, they do belong.
Man.
And
that
I
is
said,
really good.
hot dang, schooled by a 12-year-old. And I go, that's really what it is. And she looks at me and says this, Felipe, isn't Rosendin already that way?
Mm.
And here's the thing, it's because the influence I provide, the ability for her to go with me where I'm going and see the position I'm in today, gives her the vision that she too could be there.
Right.
Right? And
Right.
that was when I thought, that's what the focus needs to be on. Right? Forget all the rest. You can make all the grand statements you want, but it needs to be in the work that we do, really moving and including and creating belonging for people who have a different lived experience. And it's powerful, right? Because she went with me to UT Girls Day. We sponsored an activity there with, and I'll plug J.E. Dunn. They were fantastic.
Yeah,
We
go for it.
co-sponsored this activity where we taught young women and children how to build light fixtures. And they bring in, UT Girls Day brings in roughly 8,000, children, predominantly young girls. It's a ton. I mean, it's all over their entire campus, right? Predominantly young girls, but you'll see young boys also coming there to learn. And the activities are, age bracketed, so you can sort of flow through in and out, right? But when I look back at that day, it was a group of women professionals from J.E. Dunn and Rosendin. All of us had, you could see the diversity in us, right? We had a Black woman professional. We had Asian woman professional. I was there. And so in my daughter's mind, the efforts that I do, we're already here, right?
Wow.
We're already here. So now let's capitalize on how do we get more people here? And I think if we can get the right message and people know where we are, and frankly, the truth is they might not even know who Rosendin is, period. Because I don't know how many stories I've heard, Felipe, where I go into other parts of the country and they go, Rosendin, who are you guys? We've been like a really great kept secret for 100 years. And so maybe that might be part of the problem is like, we actually need to stop trying to be the best kept secret in town. But
Secret's out.
The secret's out, right? We got to get the secret out and say, come here. We've got you.
Right.
This is the place to be, right? We want you to be here. This is the employer of choice, right? So,
Right.
Yeah.
So Steph, I could talk to you all day.
I know,
but
our time's coming to an end here, Felipe.
It is coming to an end. It's time to switch gears and move along my scrum board. But I've had a blast talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and experiences.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for doing the good work, being there, being my friend, being a professional advisor, all of those things, right? Because it's super important for all of us to have mentors, coaches, cheerleaders, all of that stuff in your life. So thank you for being that for me.
You're welcome. And I feel the same way about you. It goes both ways.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're like a rock for me. I can always count on you to keep me straight, keep my both feet on the ground.
Somebody's got to do it, Felipe.
Yes.
I mean, and I got nominated, so it's been a pleasure to be.
You make the job look so easy, Steph.
Yeah. But I do. I sincerely thank you, Felipe. I love you. Take care. Be safe.
Likewise.
And continued success here with your podcast.
Right here. Always.
All right. Awesome. All right.
Bye. Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer Manriquez. The EBFC show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's go build.